Bonjour tout le monde. Before we get going, I want to recognize that earlier today, the province of Ontario announced a provincial state of emergency. At the federal level, we've been coordinating with them and continue to do so. Ontario is taking the right steps to protect people and the healthcare system. And today's announcement is an example of what we're seeing across the country. National coordination and local action that makes sense for the circumstances on the ground. And I want you to know, Canada is here for you, in Ontario and in all parts of the country. On that note, I want to recognize all of the people on the front lines of our healthcare system. Whether you're a doctor or a nurse, a hospital administrator or maintenance staff, you are doing an incredible job. I know that all Canadians are grateful. I also want to thank all of the retired healthcare workers who are putting up their hand and coming back to help take care of Canadians. But let's do more than just say thank you to our healthcare workers. Let's also do what we can to lighten their load. In her update on Monday, Dr. Tam was clear about what we should and shouldn't be doing. Do wash your hands often. Do sneeze into your elbow. And don't gather in groups of more than 50 people. These measures, and especially social distancing, are how we can ease the burden on our doctors and nurses so they can focus on our fellow Canadians who need it most. This is an especially important day on St. Patrick's Day. Lots of you probably had parties planned or were going to head out with friends. Now is the time to find another way to celebrate and to do that at home. I know people would probably prefer to just carry on as normal. I would too. But we all must take all action through social distancing to protect our health and the health of others. Nos médecins et nos infirmières ont besoin de votre aide. Vos voisins ont besoin de votre aide. Les gens les plus vulnérables dans vos communautés ont besoin de votre aide. Autant que possible, restez chez vous. Sortez seulement si vous devez absolument sortir. Travaillez à distance. Laissez les enfants courir dans la maison. Our doctors and nurses need your help. Your neighbors need your help. Vulnerable people in the community need your help. As much as possible, stay home. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. Work remotely if you can. Let the kids run around a bit in the house. Things will get better. As the situation with COVID-19 continues to grow, our government will keep taking action too. For example, one of the things we're doing to flatten the curve is that as of Wednesday, Parks Canada is suspending visitor services at all national parks and historic sites. What this means for our parks is that pretty much anything with a door will be closed. La situation concernant la COVID-19 évolue et la réponse de notre gouvernement évolue aussi. Par exemple, Parcs Canada suspend ses services aux visiteurs à tous les parcs nationaux et les sites patrimoniaux à compter de mercredi. C'est une autre façon de veiller à la santé de nos proches. Pour ce qui est des voyages, on a annoncé des nouvelles mesures hier. Affaires mondiales Canada a notamment mis sur pied un programme de prêt d'urgence jusqu'à 5 000 $. On va pouvoir aider les gens qui ont besoin d'argent rapidement pour rentrer chez eux ou pour subvenir à leurs besoins en attendant de rentrer au pays. On a pris cette décision après avoir annoncé qu'on fermait nos frontières aux gens qui ne sont pas citoyens ou résidents permanents canadiens. Cette mesure prévoit certaines exceptions, désigner notamment les membres d'équipage et les citoyens américains. Les Canadiens à l'étranger qui ont besoin d'aide de façon urgente peuvent toujours appeler le 1-613-996-8885 ou envoyer un courriel au sos@international.gc.ca. Pour ce qui est de l'économie, tout le gouvernement travaillent ensemble pour maintenir la force de notre économie. On a annoncé une série de mesures de 10 milliards de dollars pour protéger les emplois et soutenir les entreprises. Et très bientôt, on va en avoir plus à dire là-dessus. Yesterday, we announced up to $5,000 as part of an emergency loan program through Global Affairs Canada. It will help people who need immediate financial assistance return home or cover their needs if they have to wait to get back. Canadians abroad in need of emergency assistance can always call 1-613-996-8885 or email sos@international.gc.ca. This comes as we announce that we are closing our air borders to people who aren't Canadian citizens or permanent residents, with some exceptions like for aircrew and U.S. citizens. Earlier today, the Special Cabinet Committee on COVID-19 met once again to discuss our response. And full Cabinet will have a meeting this afternoon. We are hard at work to create the right support package for Canadians while protecting people's jobs and our economy. And tomorrow, we will be making another major announcement on economic actions to support Canadians as quickly as possible. By the end of the week, we will have more to say about changes for the upcoming tax season. We're looking at giving more flexibility for people to make payments and for businesses to have more liquidity during this time. Throughout this, we're working together right across the country. I have directed the House Leader to engage with his counterparts to discuss a brief return of the House of Commons so that we can bring in emergency economic measures. There are economic pieces that will need quick passage through the House in order to support Canadians. We are also examining the Emergency Measures Act to see if it is necessary or if there are other ways that will enable us to take the actions needed to protect people. Coordination at all levels and between all parties is vital. I have asked the Chair and Vice Chair of the Cabinet COVID Committee, Ministers Freeland and Duclos, to ensure that there are regularized briefings for premiers, leaders of the opposition, and other stakeholders for the foreseeable future. And yesterday, our regular calls with all parliamentarians began, which the Public Health Agency of Canada is moderating. Right now, we must all work together. The bottom line is this: each one of us can make choices that help the people around us. In fact, we can make choices that will save lives. If we act now, even if it seems like a big ask, things will be better tomorrow. Thanks to our outstanding public health professionals, we have the information we need to make informed choices. So if you can, send an email or pick up the phone instead of meeting in person. Order takeout instead of going out to dinner. And try to support your neighbors and friends if they're worried or need help. Canada, let's work together. I know we can do this. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Sir, you mentioned just now that you're thinking of recalling Parliament for emergency measures. Before Parliament rose, they gave you a financial act that allows you to spend whatever you need to spend on this. What sort of measures might you need to take that you don't already have?
Actually, those are two separate things. We're talking about recalling Parliament briefly to pass legislative measures that will allow us to do things around EI, to do things around a number of methods to get money into the pockets of Canadians. We are also separately looking at the Emergency Measures Act to see if there are tools that they offer us that allow us to do more things that are needed for Canadians that can't be done other ways. Nous regardons la possibilité de ramener le Parlement pour passer des mesures législatives pour pouvoir livrer de l'aide directement aux citoyens. On a une capacité d'investir tout de suite pour aider les Canadiens, mais il y a des mesures législatives qui vont avoir besoin de l'accord des parlementaires pour pouvoir avancer, et c'est sur cela qu'on travaille avec les citoyens.
Monsieur Trudeau, Mélanie Marquis de la presse, le nombre de cas aux États-Unis est en augmentation constante. Il y a des foyers importants dans l'État de Washington, dans l'État de New York. Qu'est-ce que vous attendez? Qu'attendez-vous pour fermer la frontière canado-américaine?
Comme j'ai dit, on est en train de coordonner avec les États-Unis, avec les autorités américaines. On est en train de regarder tout ce qu'on peut faire pour protéger les Canadiens. Il n'y a rien qui est écarté. On regarde toutes les différentes options. On va tout faire pour garder les Canadiens en sécurité et on s'assure qu'en même temps, on n'est pas en train de faire mal à des Canadiens en limitant les denrées essentielles et les marchandises.
Prime Minister, we're told the need for social distancing is pressing everywhere in the country, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. Why not a federal directive on something like closing bars and restaurants or other non-essential businesses?
We have taken significant measures up until this point, every step of the way, and we will continue to take necessary measures. We know a number of provinces are moving forward in measures that are appropriate for them, and we will continue to look at what we can do at the federal level to keep Canadians safe. Everything that needs to be done to keep Canadians safe is being done.
Philippe Vincent Foisy de Radio-Canada. On en a pour combien de temps? Les gens se demandent en ce moment, on est prêt à faire des efforts, mais ça va prendre combien de temps? On parle de mois, de semaines. Pouvez-vous être clair avec eux? Vous leur demandez des efforts importants. Combien de temps?
On demande des efforts importants aux citoyens et on va être là pour appuyer les citoyens aussi, pour appuyer les petites entreprises et les grandes entreprises, pour appuyer les citoyens qui ont besoin d'argent pour faire leurs emplettes, pour nourrir leur famille, pour payer leur loyer. On ne sait pas combien de temps ça va prendre, si ça va être des semaines, si ça va être des mois. Mais nous allons être là, les uns pour les autres, pour appuyer les Canadiens, pour passer à travers de ce moment extrêmement difficile et exceptionnel. Okay. We will be there as a country for our citizens, for our businesses, for Canadians who are worried. Whether it's making sure that small businesses can remain viable through this difficult time, whether it's so that families can take care of their loved ones or put food on the table, we will make sure that Canadians are able to hold through this difficult time. We don't know exactly how long this is going to take, whether it takes weeks or months, but we know that every step of the way, we will be there to support each other. That's what Canadians do.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Canada is responsible for the poor living conditions in Indigenous communities, which makes them more vulnerable to the spread of COVID-19. Why isn't more being done to prepare these communities for this pandemic?
From the very beginning, we have been working closely with Indigenous services, with Indigenous leadership across the country to ensure that what is needed to be done will be done for Indigenous and remote communities. We know that there is a higher degree of vulnerability. There are already vulnerabilities because of difficult conditions in so many of those communities. That is why we are taking extra measures to ensure that Indigenous people across this country remain safe.
Prime Minister, up until yesterday, it's already almost 2 months since the coronavirus initially occurred in China, and Wuhan city and Hubei province become the epicenter. So for 2 months, even though more than 62 countries has taken measures to restrict travelers from China, Canada doesn't believe in closing the border, like did not take any measures to stop travelers from that epicenter. Then yesterday, it's the announcement just close the border not only to people from the epicenter, but also to almost everybody except U.S. citizens. So it looks like the policy is kind of from one extreme to another. Like what happened? What makes the government to move the policy from one extreme to another extreme?
I think people have noticed that the situation has evolved incredibly rapidly around the world, and that does require different decision-making at different moments. We took responsible decisions to keep Canadians safe, including measures at the airports as issues started to happen in Wuhan and in China, and that was able to keep Canadians safe as we saw a very low incidence of cases and spread of the virus in Canada, even though we didn't do what other countries did and close the border, because we followed the recommendations of of our public health officials, and we were able to control the spread of the virus from the very beginning. The situation has now changed, and the recommendations of our scientists and experts have changed, and we are continuing to do and will continue to do everything that is needed every step of the way to protect Canadians.
Maura Forrest, Politico. Yesterday, President Trump told Americans to avoid gatherings of more than 10 people. Today, you're still saying 50 people. Why don't you believe that same advice is necessary to give Canadians now? And at what point would you be at the point where you would give Canadians that same recommendation of limiting gatherings to 10 people?
The advice yesterday given by our Chief Medical Officer of Canada, Dr. Theresa Tam, was to avoid gatherings of 50 people. But of course, Canadians should look to as much social distancing as possible. They should look to stay home. They should look to take measures that keep themselves and their families and their neighborhoods safe while not overburdening our public health system. These are the things that Canadians must do, and we will continue to keep people informed on the best ways to keep Canadians safe. Okay. La docteure Theresa Tam, notre docteur en chef au Canada, a annoncé hier qu'on ne devrait pas avoir des groupements de plus que 50 personnes. Et c'est exactement ce que je répète aujourd'hui. Mais évidemment, tous les Canadiens devraient chercher à s'isoler le plus possible, à rester avec leur famille, à ne pas aller en public, à prendre les mesures nécessaires pour continuer de pouvoir s'appuyer les uns les autres.
Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News. Prime Minister, you told our colleagues at Radio Canada earlier that there are Canadians who just won't get home. Can you give us a sense of how many Canadians will be stranded? What kind of options are available to these Canadians, such as repatriation flights, for example? And how do you justify leaving them there?
We are looking at every possible way of bringing Canadians home. There are 3 million Canadians at any given moment around the world living and working, and I think it is just realistic to know that there are some of them who will not be coming home in the coming weeks. But we will make measures available through Global Affairs Canada, loans and supports. We're working with airlines to try and make sure that as many Canadians as possible, as many Canadians as want to, can come home. This is something that all Canadians are expecting of their government, and we're going to be doing it. Je pense que les gens savent qu'il y a presque 3 millions de Canadiens qui habitent, qui vivent, qui voyagent outre-mer à n'importe quel moment. C'est sûrement le cas que certains d'entre eux ne vont pas revenir au Canada dans les jours à venir. Mais certainement que beaucoup de Canadiens en voyage à travers le monde vont vouloir revenir, et c'est pour ça que Affaires mondiales Canada est en train de rendre disponible de l'argent et de l'aide. On est en train de regarder les vols, on est en train de regarder ce qu'on peut faire pour faciliter le retour du plus grand nombre de Canadiens possible dans le plus court délai possible.
Mr. Prime Minister, Liberthium, Canadian Press. Why isn't the federal government invoking a state of emergency? And where is the government going to find all the money to pay for all the measures that you're going to have to roll out over the next little while?
State of emergency isn't necessarily something in itself. It is a way of enacting measures that otherwise would not be able to be enacted. So we are looking at the Emergency Act to look at what those measures are that it would make available, and whether there are other ways without having to bring in a state of emergency that we could invoke them. We are examining that very carefully. And on the costs of the measures, Canada has taken responsible fiscal decisions over the past years that have allowed us to have a significant room to maneuver on investing in our economy. We are the G7 country with the lowest debt to GDP ratio, the lowest debt as a proportion, deficit as a debt as a proportion of the size of our economy, and that allows us to invest significantly in Canadians, in businesses, to make sure we're able to make it through this difficult time and make sure we continue to prosper and grow once we are through this moment. That is the result of the decisions we have taken responsibly as a government over the past years.
We'll now go to a few questions on the phone. Just one question, no follow-up.
Thank you. We will take questions from the telephone lines. On va entendre des questions du téléphone. If you have a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Si vous avez une question, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant. The first question is from Mary Walsh from the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hi, Prime Minister. Canadians are getting very different messages from the provinces and from you and from cities. They're varying from stay with gatherings under 10 people to 50 people. And I'm wondering if you are worried that Canadians are getting mixed messages.
From all governments is very, very similar. Stay at home as much as you possibly can. Engage in social distancing. Look to care for your loved ones and don't go out unless you absolutely have to. The various recommendations will be suitable to various jurisdictions, but we are coordinating very closely across jurisdictions to ensure that Canadians get this message that it's time to stay home as much as possible.
Thank you. Merci. The next question, la prochaine question est de Hélène Buzetti du Devoir. À vous la parole. Please go ahead.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre. J'aimerais revenir à la question de la frontière américaine. Vous avez dit que vous n'allez pas pris de décision tout de suite pour ne pas compromettre les chaînes d'approvisionnement. Mais c'est pas clair dans ma tête le lien qu'il y a entre tourisme et cargo. En quoi empêcher un individu de New York de venir à Toronto va nuire à l'approvisionnement d'oranges de Floride. Pourriez-vous clarifier ça? Ça nous donne l'impression que vous attendez le hockey de Donald Trump.
Pas du tout. Nous sommes en train effectivement de coordonner avec les autorités américaines parce qu'on a un très haut niveau d'intégration dans nos chaînes d'approvisionnement de notre économie. Mais nous allons toujours prendre les mesures qui sont les bonnes mesures pour les Canadiens. Nous allons regarder attentivement ce qu'on doit faire comme prochaines étapes. Nous avons pris les mesures nécessaires à chaque étape et nous allons continuer d'annoncer des mesures nécessaires au fur et à mesure que la science et les recommandations des experts et nos décisions politiques s'alignent avec ça. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Merci.